Hi everybody, welcome back or welcome to the next movie depending on what you've been up to or doing in the meantime. Just to explain to you how these icons on the desktop work, there has been another tutorial that we've been through. It was our desktop tutorial where I showed you how to place these icons on the desktop, just to show you what they have inside them and what we're going to be using them as. We'll start off with my computer. This second icon to the left of my screen. My computer is the quickest way to access your user documents or the local hard drives where you have stored all of your data into. So if you double click on this icon, it opens up this new window where you have your shared documents, the administrator documents, the local hard drives, the media drives. This is the CD-ROM drive, this is the floppy disk, and any additional devices that you might add, like a USB port or perhaps another CD-ROM drive or a removable disk, should appear under the devices with removable storage right here in this new window that you have currently opened. Well, that is really it, but it's a really quick way of accessing all your data, be it in hard drives or in separate folders in your computer or your removable disks, the CD-ROM drive, the DVD drive, or your floppy disk. It's a really easy way of accessing all of this data that is present on your computer at the moment. So going on with the lesson, when you install Windows, it automatically creates a folder called Documents and Settings, another folder called Program Files, Temp Directory, and another folder called Windows Directory where Windows is itself installed. So what we're going to do right now is go into our local disk. For me, that is the local disk C drive. It might be totally different for you. Could be D, E, F, depending on which exact drive you installed your Windows folder into, or you installed, or whilst you were installing Windows XP, you chose which drive you particularly chose to install Windows XP into. So you double click on C drive. Once you double click on C drive, you should see the screen warning you that these files are hidden and these are the files that keep our system working. Remember, this is the drive where we installed Windows XP in, so that's the hidden agenda on it. All you do is click on show the contents of this folder, because obviously we know what we're doing. Once we click on this folder, we will be able to see, well, at least 4 folders, and the folders that we just talked about a minute ago: Documents and Settings, Program Files, the Windows folder, and the Temporary Files folder. Just to reiterate, Windows is going to create these folders for you as soon as you install Windows XP. What I mean by that is, once you have installed Windows XP completely, these folders are created by default. Once more, Documents and Settings, Program Files, the Windows folder, and the Temporary folder. Well, the Documents and Settings folder, very, very important. This is where all the documents and the settings of your computers are set. And once you open up that folder, you'll see that you'll have something like all users and the different logins, and in this case there's only one login created, that is administrator, so you just have the administrator settings, and you have another folder which says you have the all users option. All users will show you each and everything that is there on your computer, be it any particular login. It could be administrator, and if I had created another login, say by the name of Ali Janjua, it would also have a folder by that name, and I would be able to double click on that and access those settings. And if I was to click on all users, I can possibly access the settings of all the users on this particular desktop PC. So once we do double click on that, we will have data that is accessible to all the users, like the desktop, the favorites, the start menu, and their shared documents. As we come back to the previous screen of administrator and all users, so now if we click on administrator, we will be able to look at data that's specifically for the administrator login. Nobody else would be, well, this data is not accessible to somebody else who logs in by another different login. Say, as I just told you, if I had created a second login by the name of Ali, I would not be able to access those from my login. But if I had access to the administrator account, so I can do that. In this instance, we're just viewing all the data that is available to all different users, and this data set is specifically related to the administrator. To cut it short, this is all the information, all the documents and settings, all the data that I have saved in the administrator login that, well, in fact, we're currently using at the moment. Going back to the previous screen, if you look at the program files folder, well, this is the folder where by default all your programs are installed. I say default and not the only folder, because you can change these settings whilst you're installing a new program and install it to a different folder on the desktop or on the hard drive or anywhere ever that you wish to place that installation file or folder in. And if you click on program files, you will be able to see all the folders, well, all the programs that have been installed in program files. In this instance, we have the Adobe software, Ahead, Blueberry software, the common files, applications, Intel, Internet Explorer, Messenger, and the story goes on. You got Movie Maker, MSN, online services, Outlook Express. So as you can see, these are most of the programs that are installed in my computer at the moment, and those are accessible through the program files folder. So all in all, you know, the Windows, well, the program files folder is the folder by default where all of your programs will be installed as a default, unless and until you change the settings. Then you have the Windows folder. If you double click on that, you can access all the Windows files, and this is the folder where Windows XP has been installed by default, and this folder, remember, is also created by default. But this really is a directory where you guys should stay out of for the most part, unless there's something really important that you need to access, and it has to be accessed from the Windows folder, because this is the beating heart of Windows XP. This is like the brain where Windows XP is actually installed, and any messing about with this could lead due to a system crash, something obviously all of us dread very dearly. So before we mess up things, we just go out of the Windows XP folder and look at the fourth and final folder, which is the temp folder. If you double click onto the temp folder, you can see certain text files, really text documents, and well, what's interesting to notice is the size of these files. It's, well, the maximum size is 4 KB. Really should make you wonder what we're doing in this folder if you're looking at these TextPad files, and you have another couple of temp files which do not have an icon listed next towards it, which really means there's no program attached to opening this program, this particular sort of file as yet. You also have a Microsoft layer for Unicode file, a DDL file really. We'll go into the extensions later on and what each file type stands for, but for now, going into the temp folder, this is what you should basically see. You'll have lots of TextPad files in the temporary folder. But all in all, temporary directory is a folder where all of your temporary data is stored and can be removed later on if you wish to. So once we come back out of the temporary directory, so that really is a basic overview of the Windows XP folder structure and the sort of folders that are created by default, where all of your default settings and documents are stored in Windows XP. So we go back to the My Computer screen, and well, each time you go onto My Computer, it'll be interesting to notice that you have in this instance you have two folders. One is administrators documents and the other is the shared documents folder. And if you have more than one login created on this particular station, you will have, if you have say one more login, you would have the login name next to the documents once more. So if you go into the administrators documents, you'll see that you have 5 different folders that you can possibly view right now in this particular window. And it's interesting to notice the path of this particular file. As you can see, it says C drive, documents and settings / administrator / my documents. So this particular my documents is just accessible to the administrator and is basically an attribute of the administrator. What that means is that all of these things that I'm viewing right now on my screen are related to the administrator login. And say if I had another login created on this station, instead of administrator it would say Ali /my documents, and those my documents would be the documents that Ali has saved on his PC and not saved from the administrator login. But each time you create a new login, it will create two folders by default in the login. The folder that's going to be created once you create a new login. In this case, it was administrator, and it's going to create a My Documents folder. And two folders are going to be created by default, namely My Music and My Pictures. And you will be able to see them by default each time you create a new login. The other three, in this instance, you have Flashback Movies, Getting Started, and Ali. These are the three additional folders that we have on in My Documents currently, and these really are not default folders. This is just part of the work, part of the videos that I've been making so far, and we're just saving them in My Documents for the moment. Just to reiterate what I was saying, so if we were to go back out of this and go onto the My Computer screen and close this, go onto our desktop, and because I'm logged in as the administrator, remember this is my login name and that cute little guitar picture that I chose for my login. If I click on My Documents, I will be able to see the same files that I was able to see once I went into the default Documents and Settings folder. And as you can see, you have Getting Started, Ali, Flashback Movies, My Music, and My Pictures, the two folders that are created by default. And this is pretty much all the work that I've done so far. I just like playing with the mouse, and I certainly does not hinder my work, does it then? So basically it's the same location, just a different way to access that. If you if you go back to My Computer, you can see that once we went to the administrator documents, it's pretty much the same location. But it's if you look at this taskbar, the address bar on this on the top of your screen, it really is a very interesting and a helpful way of finding out where you are at, what location you're at on your station. So if you go into local C drive and you click onto another document, and you go into administrator and then you click onto cookies, you can see each time I click on something, you can view that in the address bar. It says C Documents and Settings Administrator /cookies. And if I was to get out of this, since I'm now in the administrator folder, cookies goes away. And same goes for Documents and Settings. And once I'm back in just to the C drive, and once I'm back into My Computer, all I have on the address bar is My Computer. Just one final thing before we complete this particular tutorial video. If you click onto Share Documents, it's interesting to know that you have three folders. These folders are also created by default: shared music, shared pictures, shared video. What this does is anything that's placed into these documents would be accessible to anybody who logs into this station, regardless of what user level access they have or what login they log in by. They would be able to access this information. Well, what that means is, say I have already created a login that says administrator, and if I was to create another login by the name of Ali, I would have any information that's placed into these three folders would be accessible both by the administrator and Ali. And the difference comes in where if I was to place something in the administrator's documents, that information would not be accessible by the username Ali. If he was to log in, he would not be able to access this information, whereas if he was to log in by the name of Ali and all of that information was to be placed in the shared documents, it would be very easily possible for him to access all of this information. So in a nutshell, that's what My Computer is all about, and it is really easy and accessible way to get to your local hard drives, your media drives, and other important documents and folders in Windows XP.